The Masked Murderer collection that I wrote in high school. I'm gonna read book 3. That's where we left off. Here we go. The Masked Murderer 3. A Clean Sweep. Prologue. With the destruction of the New York Mafia and the death of Martin Churchill, Timothy Falprane, Andrew Martin, Emilio Loreno, and Thomas MacDonald, everything Michael fought for came true. With New York and London liberated, all of Michael's associates and his 4 allies threw him a party in New York to celebrate his accomplishments. The location was at City Hall. Michael was asked, "Why aren't you enjoying the party?" Michael replied, "I'm enjoying it for the moment, though there are still places suffering mafia oppression." The others replied, "You are telling the truth. However, enjoy your time for the people that you may not even know may know you in other parts of the world." Michael said to the person saying this, "What are you saying?" The guy replied, "You'll see soon enough." By now, Michael had a son and daughter with his wife Susan. The daughter, whom Michael named Alice, was a grown woman at this point. She got a PhD in business and politics. She ran a successful worldwide corporate empire. The company was called Spend and Save. She, though, left the board of directors with the chairman of the board in charge of her business. Meanwhile, she was running to become Secretary of State. Meanwhile, the boy named Michael Jr., the one Michael wanted to carry on his and his mother's legacy, so finally Michael called his son over. Saying, "I'm sorry I have to go, but I must. However, my heart should shine for you. My second in command is going to acknowledge you as a boss and sir in my place. But my last words to you will be, a great man must stand for what he believes in." Michael Jr. replied, "Your will be done, father." Michael replied, "Put on this mask when you are on the job. And also, no, your will be done, not mine." The son cried because of his father's death, but knew what he had to do. Meanwhile, Chapter 2, The Syndicate. 11 people, let's go! Turns out the Churchill family is one of the most accomplished mafia overlords ever. Montgomery was the least accomplished and the less reliable of the family. His brother, Martin Churchill, was a lot better asset to his family, which was the Churchill family. Oh, 30 people, let's go! The Churchills traced their mafia reputation back to the founders of the syndicate, which were message held for review. So basically, guys, I'm reading a book that I wrote when I was in high school. Oh, 42 people, let's go. Basically, I'm reading a book that I when I was in high school. It's called The Masked Murderer. Yeah, I wrote a book when I was in high school. It's a bunch of short stories. Anyways, I'll continue reading. Lorena Churchill and Philip Churchill, before they died, they produced 5 heirs to the syndicate, which were Weston, Easton, Northern, Southern, and Central Churchill. All represent North, East, West, South, and Central. Because the syndicate is an old and rich organization, filled and formed with mafias from all over the world. You do speak English? Not sure about that. Why do it speak English? Okay. Where was I at? That if this the syndicate is older, formed with mafias from all over the world. Could you shout out my boy No, you guys are a riot. No, I will not shout that guy out. Anyways, the world legend says that the syndicate powers dies. Why? I think you know why. You tell me why. If the power dies in north, south, east, or west, and central, the leader representing the syndicate power there suddenly dies. My sister is having a baby. I can't wait to be a father. Aw, that's so sweet. I hope you're a great father. Wait, what? Oh, wait. Did I read that right? Oh, I think I read that right. Anyways, pray for my marriage and for my girlfriend, my sister who's having a my. I'll pray for you. I'll do that. Anyways, I'm gonna continue reading. The syndicate held a meeting at their headquarters. The five overlords noticed that there was an empty seat representing the New York Mafia. Thanks. You're welcome. Timothy Ferprane usually sat in this seat. The five said, "Why is there an empty seat? You know, ever since our father was presumed dead, we have never." Hello there. Hello. Ever since our father was presumed dead, we have never had an empty seat. In fact, the only mafia we did not let into our syndicate was the London Mafia, led by that disgraceful Montgomery Churchill. The other members replied, "We don't know." I am reading a book called The Masked Murderer. It's a book that I wrote when I was in high school. It's a collection of short stories. So the other member we don't know. But then Bill Churchill, the old man who was the brother of Philip Churchill, he was the organization's new president and CEO, came in and said, "My nephews, here are the words of the syndicate's master, leader, and emperor." The five overlords replied, "We're listening, Bill." Bill Churchill continued, "I have a newspaper saying that somebody named Michael Angelos had destroyed the New York Mafia. Furthermore, it talks about his four allies. These so-called freedom fighters are not our number one concern, for they cannot do anything about the way we do things." Hi there. Commissioner Gordon and the NYPD. I assure you they are no threat at all. At all. This new governor of New York is also no threat. But this is what ticked me off. Michael has won the support of the federal government, which is a huge threat. And all the others put together this what we really need to focus on. The five overlords replied, "Very well." With that, the meeting was adjourned. A week later, Bill Churchill died of natural causes. He was very old. Chapter 3: The Return of Philip Churchill. When Northern, Southern, Eastern, Western, and Central Churchill found out about their Uncle Bill Churchill's death, they said, "Alas, the heart of the syndicate has died. Attention, everyone. We, the five overlords, will reveal a secret to you all. Philip Churchill, founder of the syndicate and our father, is not dead. He's missing in action." Everyone in the meeting replied, "But what of Lorena Churchill?" The five replied, "Bless our mother's soul, but she is dead." The mafia's present in the meeting continued. Um. Anyways, at the meeting was going on, the mob boss that was wait, no. Then we must find Philip Churchill before he dies, or else we have no leader. As the meeting was going on, a mob boss that was the representative of the Russian mafia said, "I know where Philip Churchill is because I was his most favored mob boss." Eastern, Western, Northern, Southern, and Central Churchill replied, "Where is he then?" The Russian mob boss continued, "Somewhere in Moscow, Russia's capital. There he sits awaiting his sentence." "Very well. We will send $1.5 billion in their currency to free our syndicate's founding father. Chapter 4, The Exchange. With that being said, the Russian mob boss was being sent out to Moscow, Russia. As he arrived at the prison's guards said, "We've heard from your so-called 5 overlords. Fine, you can go in, but no funny business, and make the transaction clean." The Russian mob boss replied, "You have my word." As he went in past all the other criminals, he approached Philip Churchill's cell. The Russian mob boss arrived. He said, "Here." Oh no, hold on, no, sorry, hold on. Philip said, "Philip, my boy, this is your lucky day." When the Russian mob boss arrived, he said, "Here's your $1.5 million in your currency." Russia's leader replied, "So be it. Here's Philip." And then the mob boss replied, "Here is your money." And so they left us. As they were leaving, the Russian mob boss handed Philip Churchill a detonator and said, "Your son said it is in our best interests." As the trigger was in the hands of Philip, meanwhile, the leader of Russia opened up the suitcase to see the money. However, what he found was a note saying, "You shouldn't have crossed the syndicate." The leader screamed, "A bomb! Those double-crossing!" As Philip Churchill heard those words, he knew what he had to do. He detonated the detonator. As the trigger was being pulled, the explosion from the building not only destroyed the entire building, there was no survivors who were in or within close radius of said building. Chapter 5. People inspired all over the world. People were inspired all over the world. Some people, however, were more than just inspired. This would mark the birth of the anti-mafia movement. Each group in each part of the world that took action had a ringleader. The places the movement was within was Russia, mostly because of their leader's death at the hands of the syndicate, Europe, and all of the USA. Basically, the ringleaders were decided depending on who's the most loyal and who was the most popular among them. And since the federal government made an alliance with Michael Sr., they didn't interfere, especially because they were modeled after Michael Sr., and they knew one thing: they did not kill innocents. Chapter 6. The Syndicate's Iron Fist. When the Syndicate found out about a whole movement, they knew what they had to do. They got records that Michael Sr. had died, and Michael Jr. was the one responsible. Philip Churchill addressed the mob boss from all over the world as fellows. "Men and women of the syndicate, this is unacceptable. If we let this Michael Jr. live, he will try to organize the whole movement into one. And what's worse, the federal government is not doing anything about it. This is a very bad position we've been put in. Here is the plan. I want assassins on Michael Jr. This fool must die." And one of the mob bosses said, "But what of the feds?" Philip Churchill continued, "Well, they had their chance at a peace alliance, and what do they do? They stab us in the back. That's what. I eventually want them out of the picture as well." All the mob bosses from around the world agreed, saying, "Very well. It shall be done for the best interests of the syndicate." Hold on. Anyways. Chapter 7. A Failed Assassination. Michael Jr. got word from his sister Alice that the syndicate planned an assassination on him. She was able to alert Michael Jr. because she has, or at least makes them, the syndicate, think they have her support. And all the syndicate does. At this point, Alice was still running to get elected Secretary of State, unaware that the syndicate is about to bring down the federal government. Michael Jr. then gathered all his men and women and sent the freedom fighters at Rikers Island a letter saying, I must leave, for there is an attempt on my life. I know you had high respect for my father, so I ask you this one thing. Be the guardian angels of New York, and protect the ideals of my father. Had, as well as my grandmother, become a giant organization if you wish. But please, I'm begging you, make sure New York is not invaded by the syndicate. Michael Jr., meanwhile, Michael Jr. planned to take a trip all over the world, with the exception of the Asian countries, to rally the movements that are spread all over the world together. As one, he knew what to do. He, Michael Jr., had gained the support of all the ringleaders. Chapter 8. Some secrets should never be revealed. Hi there, you royal. Philip Churchill found out about a mask that could conquer the world from a book titled The Deep Secrets of the Aztecs. It's unknown how he got the book. However, when Philip knew what he had to do, he traveled to the cave of the last person to wear the mask, Escobar Chavez, the Mexican dictator. Philip wasted no time traveling to that cave. Can we see your room? Um, After I'm done reading, I might, maybe next stream. United against opposition. Michael Jr. canceled his plans to travel as soon as he made them. Instead, he wrote enough letters to send to each ringleader. The letters said to meet him at a warehouse in Midtown, to join me in banding together against the syndicate. Michael Jr. signed each letter with his father's name. All the ringleaders agreed and wasted no time in traveling to New York. As soon as all of them arrived, however, it was not Michael Sr. Oh, you remember me? Awesome. But Michael Jr. And the ringleaders said in frustration, "What is this outrage?" Michael Jr. replied in a calming tone, "I will explain myself. I am Michael Sr.'s son." The ringleaders replied in shock, "Well, why didn't you say so in the first place?" Michael Jr., the ringleader added, "Why did you bring us here? What is your wish?" Michael Jr. replied, "I wish for you all to join us against the syndicate, please. Consider this offer, for we must unite against oppression." The ringleaders replied, "Truly you are the son of Michael Sr." "Very well, it shall be done, but what will be the name of our army?" Michael Jr. thought for a minute and replied, "The Allied Liberators." All the ringleaders replied, "So be it." Chapter 10. The Cursed Mask. As Philip Churchill arrived at the cave to search for the cursed mask, he noticed that the weather was worse than he had ever experienced before. The sky was blood red, but was raining the darkest and blackest rain anyone had ever seen. Philip did not tell his crew of men, but he was terrified. He was known to that him feeling so scared that he had arrived at the right place would undermine the morale of his crew that was with him. As he entered the mouth of the cave, all they had to do was guide them was a single lantern. They began walking forward with rats and other disgusting, grotesque and bugs and rodents. Running past all of this, and when they went further atop their feet and above, they couldn't see, but they could hear the chirping of bloodthirsty bats and the clicking of the deadliest scorpion tails. As they moved forward in the cave, on the side of the cave walls, they could feel the slimiest and ickiest goo dropping from the cave walls. They still continued walking, however. As they continued their journey, they were met by a huge swarm of flesh-eating spiders. The men falling behind began to shoot, squash, and stab the spiders, but their efforts were in vain. There were too many for all the men to survive. Philip Churchill had to leave the two dead men and keep moving forward in search of the cursed mask. Next, they came to a drawbridge. a drawbridge, and the water they crossed was not water at all. It was really the blood of all the men who had put the mask back in its place in the cave. So with every step on the creaking board, Philip and his crew knew that they had to make it across. At the end of the bridge, they were met by the longest and crookedest ladder they ever had seen before. As they placed their hands on the ladder, they noticed that the ladder was made of human remains. One by one, the men climbed the ladder up to the top, some of them losing their grip and the leftover fluids and skin of the bones of the others. The higher they went, the more the men dropped, until Philip reached the top and looked down to notice he was all alone, face to face with the cursed mask. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, are you reading that? No, I got finished reading that, actually. I got done reading that. Chapter 11, The Plan to Destroy the Syndicate. Michael Jr., unaware that Philip was looking or had discovered the cursed mask, for he was too busy to create a plan that would be magnificent enough to bring down the syndicate once and for all. Michael Jr. knew that the plan had to be flawless, with no room for mistakes. For the plan to work, he decided it would be too hard to kill off each individual member of the syndicate. I know you do. You missed that book? You can still hear me read it. I have a playlist for that. You can still hear me read it. He decided to make it a small and quiet plot to end the syndicate. He did not want anything to stop this elaborate, short, sweet, and deadly plan. He decided that to achieve this, he needed to somehow. Michael Jr. thought to himself, now the hard part was getting them there. Chapter 12, Reign of Terror. As Michael Jr. was planning to end the syndicate, unbeknownst to him, that Philip had already arrived at the syndicate's headquarters with the cursed mask. The syndicate was not quite sure exactly how powerful this Aztec artifact was, but being the reliable and faithful members they were willing to put their trust in the mask. Meanwhile, Michael Jr. had decided that the only way to lure the syndicate to certain death in the water tomb was to tempt them with a chance for great wealth. Michael Jr. created a fake map to the fake treasure, and he secretly slipped the map into the syndicate's hands. Like fish and bait, they were hooked. The syndicate arrived at midnight, however. Once inside, the trap was set. The water began to rise along with corpses from previous adventurers. As the water rised higher and higher, the men feared death was at their front doorstep. Philip Churchill, holding the mask, reassured them, saying, "Fear not, men and women of the syndicate, for this mask will rescue us all from certain death." As Philip said those words, he slowly put on the mask. As soon as he put on the mask, the water lowered and the door swung open, releasing the entire syndicate from the jaws of death in the water tomb. And with that, the syndicate never doubted the mask's power again. Chapter 13, The Rise of the Mask, The Fall of the Government. As Michael Jr. and his crew were getting ready to celebrate the fall of the syndicate, Michael Jr. realized that he needed to call his sister. When the attempts at reaching her failed, however, he knew something was amiss. Meanwhile, the syndicate had reached Alice, Michael Jr.'s sister. It was the first place they went after they were released from the water tomb. The syndicate are vicious and bloodthirsty individuals. But when Michael Jr. had tried to end all their lives, they knew they had to hit Michael Jr. hard. They also knew that in order to do this, they had to kill his sister in the pool of her own blood. They would cut their ties with her, but no matter what their plans was, they were always intelligent, clever individuals. And they had an even better ultimate plot than getting revenge on Michael Jr., for they were not just any petty criminal organization. They also knew what their first step was: eliminate the federal government. The plan started to take off like a rocket ship with the death of Alice. The plan from there started to spread from step to step like wildfire, with the syndicate killing, capturing, and torturing every important political figure, including those who wanted or were running for public office. They also placed bombs on various cargo and money laundering ships across the sea, thus ending America's financial stability for a long time. The bombs were all detonated at the same time, causing utter chaos and a terrible uproar. And because of this, the financial institutions all over America started losing power and started to crumble because a lot of Americans' money sources were destroyed, not letting it flow into the country. Because a lot of Americans' money sources were destroyed, not letting it flow into the country, and with no political figures and no finances or goods to sell, the country was on its knees, begging for the syndicate to stop. The syndicate, however, always follows through with its threats and promises, and because of this and how victorious the syndicate was, they didn't stop. In fact, they kept on going, destroying more and killing more, their best to cripple America, the best they can. Because of this, people started cursing them and calling them agents of destruction until the government and the country was at a complete loss. Chapter 14. Honor that cannot be weighed. When the plan to destroy, had created to destroy the federal government was put into play, Michael and his crew were still trying to figure out who gave the syndicate, who gave the syndicate the upper hand and what that was supposed to seal their fates. Michael Jr. knew there had to be something that could be of help the syndicate accomplish such a feat. What are you reading? I'm reading the Masked Murderer collection, which is a collection of short stories I made when I was in high school. Something that was unnatural that upset the balance of nature itself. Michael Jr. knew that only one person that might be able to help give at least a clue was the one he was sworn to kill, the one he calls Lucifer himself, Philip Churchill. Before anyone could notice and get the jump on him, Michael Jr. arrived and he stuck it to the shadows until he was able to get into his window. Once Michael Jr. was inside his estate, Michael Jr. walked very slowly, tippy-toe-like, and with great strength over to Philip and his bed. When Michael Jr. spoke, he talked so slowly with such great ease that it was like he manipulated Philip's thoughts. When Michael Jr. asked his question in a whispering tone, it was almost impossible for Philip to not tell the truth. Philip, as he looked like he was sleeping, informed Michael that he could not reveal any information to Michael Jr. and a book titled The Deep Secrets of the Aztecs, because he himself was not in control or in charge of the secrets of the Aztecs. Michael Jr. Because he this is not the end, but the begin, and threw a punch that sparked on the floor, making smoke rise, allowing Michael to disappear. Michael Jr. tried to learn as much as he could, but he spent countless hours at different libraries and antique bookstores. He was becoming lost in his search for answers. Michael Jr. started to only care about finding the truth. Somebody had to show him that should not only be the case. That person was Emma. She was a beautiful young girl who worked at the library that Michael Jr. usually went to and fell fast and hard in love with Emma. So fast that within a few months they were married. And Emma eventually became pregnant. The couple was ecstatic. Michael Jr. told Emma